Hello, everyone. A very, very good afternoon. I am Kripi Singh, and I am the founder and creative director at ABW Storytellers. And today we are here to build a very compelling story for your brand and how to take your company from a brand. We'll discuss that and how to build a narrative around it, right? So, what we will do today is we'll learn the skills and strategies necessary to effectively communicate your brand stories, right? And understanding the power of storytelling and developing a most effective and impactful communication techniques that can really shape the narrative for your brand, right? So let us start with the, I would also request you to please keep your pen and paper handy, because it is going to be an interactive exercise, and we just don't want to I don't want it to be a monologue where I speak and you just listen to. So you can just feel free to put your questions in chat, and I would love to answer them and also interact with me through chat. So yeah, if everybody is ready, so that we can get started, and you can just give me a thumbs up once you're ready. Lovely, Ayushi. I've got a thumbs up from Ayushi and different other people. So when we talk about storytelling, what do you feel, and what all things that you have in mind, right? You may say there would be a story around your company or your brand that would help you really grow and leverage sales. That is story for you as a brand or as a company, right? But how do we really shape up a story? So how do we get started? What are the key points that are very important and necessary for any company to build that kind of story, or build that kind of connection with your target audience? And why should they really engage with you? Or probably they just do not see you as a company, but they do see you as a brand. So we'll discuss that. If we talk about two extreme emotions, or probably two individuals, right? Somebody whom you love, and somebody whom you dislike, right? If we make two columns, uh, what do you feel? What kind of emotion would they evoke in you, right? When we talk about somebody whom you love, they might give you that joy, inspiration, or nostalgia, empathy. And when we talk about the kind of emotion, what would be the kind of emotion when you think of somebody you dislike, right? It would be, you would be unhappy, irritable, or probably uh, you would just not stand them, right? So for any individual, right, or any company, it is very important to build that emotional connection. And but how do we build that kind of emotional connection, right? If I talk about any brand, right, would you be able to give an example where you clearly think of a brand which has given you, which has evoked an emotion in you of joy, nostalgia, or empathy in you? Can anybody give an example here? Anybody would want to unmute themselves, and you can just raise your thumbs up, and we'll unmute you. So probably when you think of Cadbury, right? Or if you think of Amul, yes, Shivika, when you think of Amul, or Samsung's almost all the brands, right? Or yeah, Tata Jewelry, parental emotion. Yeah, what a wonderful example you guys have given. So Kia is one, right? So it does give you an emotion of joy, inspiration, happiness, right? That is the kind of emotion that is evoked by a brand in you, right? And when we talk about a company which is not a brand, right? It is like an non-existent individual, probably your peer or your colleague, right? Whose presence um, in or around doesn't matter, right? So company has got a story to it, has got an emotional connection to it, which may give you inspiration, joy, nostalgia. However, when you talk about a company, you may not be able to find that kind of emotion that has been evoked by a company. Probably if we talk about any biscuit manufacturing company, right, you may have seen them on the shelves of these markets, but you would really think of, do I buy it or not? However, if somebody asks you that please do go ahead and buy a digestive biscuit, I mean, sometimes you would not even if it is a trusted brand, you would not even think of probably flipping around the packet and see the ingredient, if it is really a digestive biscuit or not, or is it just filled with maida and sugar, right? So that is the kind of brand power a brand holds, unlike company, right? So firstly, if you are able to evoke that kind of emotion of, it has to be a positive emotion. It cannot be a negative emotion where you can, just trust the brand, and it would definitely build you, help that kind of loyalty, a sense of belongingness. When you talk about Cadbury, there is a sense of belongingness. There is happiness to it. There is a trust, that chocolate hai to, I'll buy Cadbury, right? Sometimes what happens is, because of all these differentiations, right, and or you are actually able to identify and differentiate that brand also. So when you talk about differentiation and identity, so see, storytelling is not manipulation of facts, right? That is a marketing gimmick where you call yourself a company which is giving health, or fostering that kind of sense into people, but you're not actually doing it, or um, walking the talk, I must say, right? So that is a marketing gimmick, but not a storytelling. Storytelling is always very authentic, and it has a very distinct narrative to it. Brand often, when we talk about, when how we differentiate it and identify them, is there is always an authenticity. There would always be a purpose. There would be values, right? There would be a humane element to it, and that what makes our brand very relatable, right? To you, probably. Initially, when Maggie was launched, so all the mamas of the earth were making Maggie, yeah, because they made it very relatable, right? Um, why and why do you, if you think of, why do you go to a brand, or why do you not just buy anything, even if it is a D2C company, or a B2B company, or a B2C company, for example, right? You would not just probably go blindly, or you won't just buy a product, but yes, when it says it is a brand, you will buy that. So that kind of a power a brand has. Yes, the third point would be, the first point is always emotional connection that a brand can build, right? Second, you are able to differentiate them and identify them, right? Because of how they, communicate their values, their history, their purpose, right? And their humane element. And also, how do you like really build trust and credibility, right? When you share testimonials, right? When you share customer testimonials, you share success studies, you share that, and you weave that kind of narrative to it, right? Where we talk about expertise, we talk about reliability, that it has been used by the most popular people, and endorsed by sometimes the most popular people. right? So this is what kind of, this is the role of storytelling when it comes to, shaping the brand perception. And also, you will realize that, you will think, whenever there is a communication from any brand, right, it will touch a chord in your heart, right? Because they would want to make it memorable. They would want to make, um, interesting, engaging, right? So sometimes, what we often do is we give a lot of facts when it comes to our companies, right? That we have done this, we have done that, we have so many customers, we are serving government, we are serving corporate, or we are in a social innovation sector. We just throw numbers. But you really need to understand that throwing numbers is good, right? It does, I won't say that it doesn't give you credibility. It does give you credibility. However, stories do make it more memorable, right? And when you talk about stories, we will learn how to craft a narrative. It's just the beginning. Though it is a short program, but yes, we will learn today of how we really craft the narrative for your brand. But it is also important to understand how do we really shape that kind of narrative, right? So that it becomes easy later on. So when we talk about fostering a sense of purpose, right, a brand would always foster a sense of purpose. Probably they will say that, we are not just a biscuit brand, or we are not just, probably nutrition brand, but we take care of your health, and we would want you to, we would want to give you a better health, better future, so that, you can jump, be happy. And you can see that in whisper ads also, right? Or probably the sanitary napkins ads, right? So they do foster a sense of purpose, and there is a consistency and alignment in their communication, right? So think of your, now what exercise that I'm going to give you is, think about, what would you be want to be known for, right? What are the attributes that you would want to be known for as an individual and as a brand? Yes, Ganesh, they in B2B brands, yes, there is a storytelling, because we are all humans and we connect to stories quickly, right? So yes, in B2B brands, there is a lot of storytelling that is happening. It is not just limited to D2C brands or FMCG brands where we see advertisements on television, right? So for example, when you talk about, now I will give you an example of B2B brand or a B2C brand, right? When we talk about Tesla, right? Tesla marketed themselves as the Tesla's electric revolution, right? And so what did they focus on? When you think of Tesla, what did they focus on, and how did they, created that kind of emotional connect with people? So they branded themselves with, with a vision of sustainable future, right? They called themselves, that they are bringing in this electric revolution, and their vision is focused on promise of clean transportation. So that did give, the sense of excitement, joy, our desire to be a part of that positive change, right? So Tesla did evoke that kind of emotion in people, right? When we talk about how did they, really differentiated themselves, like the points which we discussed previously, they identified them as, doing something really great. It was a technological revolution, right? With they positioned themselves as a technologically innovative company. They talked about high performance vehicles. They talked about the sleek design. They did talk about, the unique differentiation of how they are going to be pioneers and disruptors in the market, right? So this is how they identified themselves and differentiated from rest of the the rest of the competitors that were already in the market. So when you just think of an example, when you think of yourself, probably anybody would like to give an example of what they are doing in their business, and we can take that example up and we can create a story around that. Anybody who would love to do that, we can just put your thumbs up and we'll unmute you, or you can just particularly share it in the chat box, and we can just read it out from there. So okay, so we'll continue with Tesla. How they position themselves, right? When we talk about that emotional connection with the brand, how would you differentiate yourself? For example, if I say, right, I am a storyteller. Basically, I am a filmmaker, right, who does an audio visual production and craft narratives to it, right? So that it becomes more memorable, there is more recall value, there is engagement to that kind of video production or audio production, right? That is happening for your company or your brand. However, if I just say, if I introduce myself, right, that we make videos, right, and we make corporate films, we make promotional brand films and all of that. So you can see the difference, right, of how we have positioned ourselves, what kind of how we are different from others, right? Not just as a audio visual production company, because we are stitching narratives, we are engaging with people, right? And we help you create that kind of a brand which takes you from a company to being where people can actually identify and differentiate you as a brand. Yeah. So we discussed 2 points where we talked about how Tesla created an emotional connection, and how they differentiated and identified themselves as a brand. And when it came to building that kind of trust and credibility, what did they do? Right. So they share the testimonials of satisfied customers, basically the notable figures, right, who experienced the benefits of Tesla, who were smitten by the features of what Tesla provided. They did showcase the safety records. They did highlight the extensive research and development that was happening behind their product. So this is how they gained trust and credibility. And how we'll now discuss how they made their communication, especially the communication part, more engaging and memorable. So they used captivating visuals, videos, demonstration, where they did talk about the benefits and the features and how they are different, and creating a very lasting impression in the minds of the audiences. And now you need to understand how did it like really foster a sense of purpose in them. So they aligned their brand with a larger mission of sustainability. Though they are an EV vehicle manufacturing company, but this is how you position yourself and foster a sense of purpose, so that people are attracted to it and people do come to see you as a brand, right? So they did a storytelling which was around sustainable transportation, technological innovation, and clean energy future, right? So that did create a very lasting impression on people, right? So they also inspired their audience that they are making this kind of positive change, right? When it comes to vehicles, right? Because all the other vehicles at that point of time, when we heard about Tesla in around 2013 or 12, so it did talk about how they are going to change the world. And also you need to understand that it is not just you creating a narrative for the brand, but it is also being in the senior leadership, or being holding that position of a CEO, or the the founder of the company, right? You need to be aligned with the communication of the company also, right? Right. For example, we can see that, how Elon Musk's erratic behavior affected Tesla, and it did had a, a positive and a negative impact on Tesla. So his erratic behavior did had, both the negative and the positive impact. And while Elon Musk is widely regarded as a visionary and has played a very significant role in driving Tesla's success, however, because of his unconventional behavior or controversial statements, at times, it created challenges in the company as well. For example, there was a volatility in stock market, in the stock prices also, right? It was not very well received by media, and it garnered attention, and the people perception was also, where they saw Tesla as a very, mm, it did bring a lot of criticism and scrutiny for Elon Musk, and that had an impact on Tesla also. Yes, it did affect the employee morale, because nobody would want to live in an unpredictable or, environment which is frequently where your senior leadership is asking you to frequently change your direction. And he also underwent the regulatory scrutiny, where he did talk about the production targets and, driving capabilities, where he saw, so he did attract a lot of criticism, and there was a shareholder concern over corporate governance also. So yes, we did discuss an example which of Tesla, which called themselves as an electric revolution. So it had a positive impact because of how they branded themselves. However, due to the erratic behavior of the founder, right, things were pretty different for the company also, the brand also. So now, firstly, you need to understand before creating a story, right? Before creating any kind of narrative for your brand, right? Who is your target audience? Okay. That is something very important, and people do take it lightly, because they think, I know, what my target audience is. It's a B2B business or a B2C business, or, D2C business, and I'm done with that. No, that kind of, approach is fine, but it is not really, help you build a brand and help you stitch a narrative, right? Identifying a target audience and understanding, for example, when you talk about your target audience, right? Mr. Ganesh Shelke has given an example that they are into electric powertrain subcomponents manufacturing, right? And trying to create a storytelling strategy around relatability of the product. So I believe it is B2B brand, and they are looking for a strategy where they want to communicate themselves, in a much more creative fashion, and also connect with the audience. So firstly, even if it is a B2B brand or a D2C brand, you need to first understand that identifying target audience and why they are important, right? So you need to first understand what are their goals and motivation, what are their aspirations, right? And why would they actually, would want to buy your product over anybody else's, right? What motivates them in their professional lives or in their personal lives, or what are they looking to achieve or improve upon, right? So if your product is bringing a change in their environment, or probably in their household or in their business, you need to understand that as well. Secondly, the very important point is where we talk about their pains and challenges. So if you talk about a B2B brand, right, what are their common challenges, what are their pain points, what obstacles, are they facing in achieving their goals? What are their, frustrations or difficulties do they, do they experience, right? So what your product or your service is going to solve for them, right? So you need to understand them and what are their key expectations, right? uh, from you as a brand, right? From you as a company, and what do they actually value the most, right? And this is a very critical exercise, though I take, the offline sessions where it is very interactive. We give away workbooks and, people do fill in all the details about, however, this is a short session, but still we are going to do it. And, so that it does help you out with the same. Yeah. So you need to understand firstly their goals and motivations, not yours, right? Because understanding their challenges, their pain of what is really disturbing them, where are they really frustrated, what difficulties are they experience, and how your brand uh, uh, can or help them, right? So you need to understand that. And why would, make them choose you over anybody else, right? That is again very important. So if we talk about a B2B brand, you can say that, we are reliable, we are trustworthy, we deliver on time, there is an after sales service, right? Or we are available, whenever uh, you may need us, right? So create that kind of differentiation and identification also. So let's do the crafting of the narrative activity, where I would request you to first write your target audience, right? Think of you as a company and what are your target audience. You write that in first column, and in second column you need to write attributes that you would want to be known for, right? And see, it is not just company, but you too represent a brand, right? And people would meet you, right? And people would discuss um, their problems or their pain points with you first. So you are a brand too in yourself, right? It is not just the company logo, or probably, having a nice color palette of, in a graphic. No, that doesn't work in today's world. And we have a lot, you may end up with having a lot of graphic that you and your graphic designer may be excited about. However, you need to understand that if it is not exciting, if that kind of communication is not exciting your customer, your potential client or your prospective customer, it is not helping you. Just filling up, your social media with various probably posts where you are just posting, making those nice graphics and posting day in and day out. No, it is not helping you that way. You need to understand how do you really say your story, even if it is on social media. What are the preferred mode of communication for your, customer or your client? Are they available on social media or not? Do they prefer email? Do they prefer text? Or like for T2C brands, they can advertise on television also, they can advertise on OTT, they can advertise on YouTube. So you need to understand not just the communication part, but also the preferred mode of communication, where you can get connected to your potential customer or your client who already exists. So I would request you to, I'll also share my screen so that it does give you an idea of, how do we really create that. Yeah. So can you see my screen?
Yes, I can see. Yes, sir.
Lovely, lovely. So in the first column, see, you need to build a narrative around yourself and then your brand, right? So for example, you are a B2 B2B brand, right? Or D2C brand, or or anything, right, for that matter. So firstly, you need to understand, build this column, and you can just take your pen and paper and write down who are your target audience, right? And also do it for yourself as an individual, uh, because you build the company, right, and you make the brand. And this exercise is not just important for founders, co-founders, or business owners. It is equally important to an employee, right? It is equally important to anybody working in your company, so that they understand themselves as brand. And also uh, they understand how we really craft a message around uh, around our company and make it a brand, and how to be consistent, how to be aligned. So are we guys going good? Are there any questions that you want to ask? We can just mm, open the mics and we can talk. Yeah. So in the first column, you'll write what are your target audience as a B2B brand, right? What are the attributes that you want to be known for? Is it trust, right? Is it reliability? It is about building better products, so you need to write that. And always remember that your message has to be concise, because the attention span of viewers today, or your of people today, has gone down to 4 seconds, right? So you can imagine, if the first 4 seconds are not engaging enough, people will eventually drop out, right? People will just scroll through another Instagram story or a WhatsApp story, or they would not really be engaged in that kind of communication. So your communication has to be concise, it has to be impactful, it has to be convincing, right? And what are the value propositions that your brand offers? You need to understand that what are your unique selling points, you need to pinpoint them. Yeah. So anybody here would like to give an example? Well, our target, yes, Soumyajit Ghoshal has said, um, our target audience are customers of all age group, locally across, globally, and um, locally across globally, and target their favorite delicacies across geographies by using seamless robotics. Yeah. Machines for manufacturing of products. So what I understand from this is basically, and that you are into FMCG, and you are creating cuisines for people, right? So that is fine. That is fine. That uh, that if you belong to an FMCG or D2C brand, that is completely fine, where you can, where you have target audience. So basically, you need to understand that, target audience is from age group 3 to 80, right? But you need to understand who in that household makes a decision to buy those products, right? For example, if it is a mother, right? So you need to target your marketing on especially when it comes to mother, like how most of the FMCG brands do, like a Complan boy or a Complan girl, where you talk about giving them a good height, being taller, sharper, and all of that. Yeah. So, but always remember that it is not, it is not about fake promises. If the consumer turns around the packet, right, and finds it that it is all full of sugar, with a flavor of chocolate, that doesn't also help. Yeah. So your narrative should be engaging. You should have achievement. You should have your achievements highlighted. or, customer success stories, and with a strong closing, right? You need to do that. Also, as if you remember, we talked about, creating that emotional connect, right? You should be able to, come up with an inspiration, or trust, or a sense of purpose to that, right? With all the testimonials, case studies, and everything, right? So, have you guys done this exercise? And Ganesh here writes that, our targets are electric vehicle manufacturing, like e-cycles, e-rickshaw manufacturers, R&D heads and purchase heads of the companies, right? And attributes are tech, product friendly, indigenous, right, Ganesh? Yeah. So you have understood your target audience, but it is also important to refine them more, right? The points that we talked about, right? We can do that as well. Yeah. So yeah, are we done with the this exercise? Yeah. So we'll now talk about, storytelling techniques for capturing attention and creating an emotional connection, right? Uh, First of all, think of your audience and think of, starting with a compelling hook. It can be a thought-provoking question, or a surprising fact, or a relatable anecdote, right? If you see most of the advertisement, you'll find, one of the three things that I'm talking about. You have to use a very vivid language, right? A very vivid language and a very descriptive language, which talks about your brand in detail. Ensure that it does talk about your brand in detail, of the features and the, and the attribute it does have, but it doesn't necessarily need to be very long, right? You also incorporate personal stories, right? And the kind of stories that touch a human emotion is, when you talk about your own personal stories. For example, if you are able to relate with any kind of personal story, right? Probably when we talk about paper boat, right? Or their ampana. So what do? Is they connect your childhood memories, with their product, and that is the kind of, the stories they build around it, right? And it is also easier for people, or, the your audience, to connect with you or your brands when you incorporate that kind of personal stories. Yeah. A very important point when you talk about, the capturing that kind of attention and creating an emotional connection, right? You need to create a hero's journey for your product or service. And now, you must be wondering what that hero's journey is, right? So firstly, you need to introduce a protagonist, right? Which is your brand or your customer, right? Just like all the Hindi films, in India, yeah, or in down south, there is a hero, there's a protagonist. He or she faces certain conflicts or challenges, and then how your brand, right? How your brand can really help them overcome that kind of challenge, and creates a sense of, suspense, transformation, and triumph for them. That is like really going to capture that kind of attention and emotional connection to it, right? So, if we talk about anybody would like to give an example, where they have seen such a hero's journey of a brand, or a product or a service, that they would like to share. Right, Rambala, you're absolutely right. Emotional connection is better achievable through personal stories or customer stories, right? So, rightly said. And if anybody would like to give an example of the hero's journey that they have seen in a brand, where they have, mm, where they find it relatable, where they find the, the anecdotes, there were anecdotes, right? So anybody who would like to share? And especially when you see, Amir Khan, can we please unmute Girish Jha? He wants to talk about, the emotional connection that an individual or brand can achieve. Yeah. So he has mentioned Amir Khan. Yeah. So I would request the IT team to please unmute Girish Jha, Mr. Girish Jha. Hi, Dipanjan. Would we be able to unmute him?
Yeah, I'm trying.
Okay.
Give me a minute.
Yeah, ma'am.
Yes, Mr. Jha, please go ahead. So you gave an example.
Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola
Coca-Cola. Lovely, lovely. If you can please explain it.
means
Yeah, so Coca-Cola was another brand, which did connect, and it did attach themselves to celebration, right? And it did, with this kind of weather in India, they connected themselves as Thanda Matlab Coca-Cola, right? So if you resonated with that brand, right, you wouldn't want to probably, you would not buy any other beverage, for example, for that matter, Pepsi, Fanta, or Limca. No matter about the taste or anything, but if you did resonate with the brand, you'll just go simply walk into the store or a grocery shop, and you would just buy Coca-Cola, right? Brilliant example. And so they created that kind of a hero's journey. Anybody else who would like to share an example about this hero's journey, or how would they incorporate in a brand? So can we please unmute Mr. Soumyajit Ghoshal, and he would like to talk about his brand, where in pandemic they were able to focus on enterprise building rather than customer values for a generation of business model. Yeah. Yes, Mr. Ghoshal.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
Yes, since in the time of pandemic, the rough COVID times, when business shutting down, we focused on the technological aspects of the business. Since we are into into food and beverages industry, and we look for safe, hygiene, multi-cuisine favorite delicacies. And at the time when we look for the B2B strategic partnerships, so that we have a very healthy kind of processes and systems in place also, from procurement of raw materials to the end user delight test, from farm to fork. So this is where we work basically, and also we look for creating a value creation rather than valuation of the company or as a brand. What we focus basically was the health of the customers of all age groups, right? We focused on various kind of menu models, right, where we focus the favorite delicacies, and we are about to launch our brand soon. And we took the B2B strategic partnerships with global brands of the uh, uh, across globally. So the thing is, instead of generating revenues, we focus on a pre-revenue stage where we are building our multi-cuisine dishes through automated robotics machines, which serves as a eco-friendly, social, sustainable solution for safe food for. And we are also targeting Indian railways to give the safe multi-cuisine meals, customized meals, where the problem to address is that the safe food, where we are working for the solution coming days to come.
Wonderful, wonderful. So this is again a brilliant example of how they, thought of not just increasing the evaluation of their company, but they thought of adding value to the customers even in the pandemic, and coming up with technological revolution where they have their machines make all these cuisines. Wonderful, wonderful. That is a wonderful story, and there can be something more that can be built around it, and with safety, with hygiene. Yes, you can target multiple audience, right? So lovely, lovely. Anybody else? Mr. Ram Bala here says celebrities, sportswear, celebrities endorsing sportswear. Yes, again, you see the Indian cricket team, or the captains, right? Endorsing different brands. So yes, yes, this is again, Mr. Bala. It is again one of the very good examples that you've given. And now as we talked about the audience, right? We talked about the audience. We talked about how to identify them, by creating, understanding their pain points, what are the goals and what are their aspirations, what they are really looking forward to. So, and I would also like to, recommend that, it is not just the external storytelling, right, that a brand does for its target audience, but it is also the internal storytellings that you do with your employees, right, or your stakeholders. That too does matter, because it's not just the external customers who are buying it, but yes, giving equally, you need to give equal importance to the storytelling that we can do for our employees, or we can do for our stakeholders, investors, right? That too is very important. So when we talk about creating a hero's journey, so you need to also understand that you need to highlight the kind of transformation and growth, right, that has happened through your product or your service, right? So you can highlight that transformation and growth through success stories, through testimonials, through case studies that has really how it has really that kind of a power, to demonstrate that kind of a positive change that you had brought to environment or communities, or people or customers. And always remember that it needs to be genuine, it needs to be authentic. You need to be true to your brand's values and voice, because your values and voice are your brand's values and voice, right? It is a reflection of you, who you are, as an individual, and that is how the brands are built. And I would also suggest you never use a very salesy language, right? Or try to avoid promotional language, right? A storytelling is always genuine, is always relatable, that resonates with the audience on every human level, right? And some of the very communication strategies are, when you talk about storytelling, even before building the story, you need to do an active listening, right, of what your audiences really want. There should be clarity and conciseness. There has to be an empathy, right, and understanding towards yeah, the kind of brand that you are going to build around people, right? um, Even it is not just the verbal communication, but also the non-verbal communication that happens through storytelling, right? um you need to be very clear in your communication. There needs to be, if a feedback is received from a customer, it needs to be taken very effectively, right? So these are the points that you need to think, and you need to build story around it. And again, um, appeal to emotions, evoke those specific positive emotions of joy, inspiration, which are relative with relevant to your brand and messaging. And very important is to show, right? And the formula is always show, don't tell, right? Help them with the real life experiences, a visual storytelling technique through which, you demonstrate your brand value and your impact, right? Always have that kind of conflict, right? In conflict in the sense where you are able to, have a plot twist or conflicts and the resolution to keep your, audience engaged, just like a Hindi film where the hero is scolded by the actresses, the heroine's parents, and there is a lot of drama, plot twist, conflicts that are happening, and how how he overcomes all the obstacles and really marry that girl he wants, right? So yes, use that story arcs, use that kind of conflict, how your product or your service is able to, help you overcome a certain obstacle that a client is facing or a customer is facing, right? Again, with your all the kind of transformation and success stories you can create, you can highlight that transformation and growth of the client that you may have worked with, right? Case studies is again one of the very important tools where people actually do understand how your brand is different from the audiences, how your brand is different from the rest of the companies that are available in market, because I'm sure there are 10,000 brands, companies that are building, doing some kind of a good product, but yes, story helps them differentiate, and all these things helps them differentiate. So yes, it is going to help your brand avoid promotional or over salesy language, and you can build a very impactful narrative to it. Yeah. So well, this brings us to the close of the session, and I am really very thankful to all of you for attending this session. And thank you so very much, each of you, for attending today's session. And I look forward. You can also, uh, send messages to, if you have any question, you can mail to Dipanjan, and we would get back to you with an answer if you have any questions, right? Surely we can help you. Thank you, Dr. Seema Girdhar. Thank you for your time, and thank you, Ram Bala. Thank you. Yes, you can connect with Dipanjan, and Dipanjan would be able to give you our contact coordinates, right? But thank you for being a very lovely audience. And I would love to share, though it is an online session and we were not able to interact much. But yes, if it would have been an offline activity, it would definitely, be better, because you meet people, you talk about experiences. Yes. So thank you so much once again. And you can, of course, get in touch with Dipanjan and take my coordinates. Yeah. Thank you once again. Thank you, Dipanjan, and thank you, CII, for conducting this, session on empowering the brand through visual storytelling for all the sectors. Thank you so much.